Greetings and bienvenue, MITZU. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
For the last 10 years, I have been researching the nature of our reality, who or what controls our society from the shadows, and more importantly, what actually happens when the physical body dies and the soul leaves the body. Do we go to heaven? Do we go to hell? Do we just cease to exist? Is there something that takes care of us? Once you begin to realize what's actually going on and how deep the rabbit hole really goes, you will never see the world in the same way, so buckle up and get ready. This is not going to be easy to swallow for most people. The whole point of this post is not to frighten you, but to present you the conclusions that I've come to in regards to what actually happens when our physical bodies die after having done what feels like endless research from every angle possible. I have thoroughly investigated near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, astral projection experiences, past life regression hypnosis data, remote viewing data, Gnosticism, ancient texts, and more. I cannot say I know with absolute certainty what happens when we die, but what I do know is that all these different ways and methodologies of researching lead to the same conclusions, and because of that, I believe that Earth is a prison planet and a massive farm used by various parasitic entities who are using us and have been using us as energetic food for what appears to be a very long time. I will share plenty of evidence from different sources and perspectives to make you understand how I connected all these dots and why I came to these conclusions. I promise you that the deeper you research this stuff, the more you will begin to realize that this is extremely real, important, and it's possibly affecting every single one of us. All I'm asking you is to keep an open mind and to analyze the evidence yourself. Reincarnation in the white tunnel of light. You know how anyone who's had a near-death experience talks about having seen a tunnel of light appear in front of them? Or having met members of their family who had passed away? In some rare cases, even having met and spoken to who they thought was God. My research suggests that the tunnel of light which appears when we die is a trap designed to wipe the whole memory of our last incarnation and to recycle our souls into another body, thus keeping us in an infinite loop here on Earth. Because of this, the overwhelming majority of people walking the Earth have total amnesia and don't remember anything about their past existences, nor anything from the periods in between their lives. If you do some research, though, you will notice that there is, however, a small number of people worldwide who are able to recall very specific details regarding who they were, what they did for a living, where they lived in a past life, etc. How do we know these people aren't making up their stories? There's lots of people out there who have been able to bring very solid pieces of evidence to sustain their claims, and those claims can be verified, which shows that reincarnation is a very real phenomenon, confirming what many religions claim to happen to the soul when a person dies. The reason these people's memories have only been partially erased and not fully erased remains unknown for now. The reason people that went through near-death experiences didn't come back with their memories wiped is because, unlike people who have died, they didn't end up going all the way through the tunnel of light to reach its destination. Many near-death experiencers didn't enter the tunnel at all, while some have partially experienced it. All of them managed to return to their bodies and live to tell what they experienced on the other side, hence the term near-death experience. The astral spirit realm, the reptilians and their agenda. The reptilians are found in the literature of multiple ancient cultures across the globe. Jainism and Hindu talk about the Naga, whom they describe as half-human, half-serpent deities. The Aztecs used to worship the Quetzalcoatl, whom they described as the serpent-like god. The Hopi Indians in North America referred to a race of reptoids called the Shetty, translated snake brothers. In Africa, shamans claim to bear extensive esoteric knowledge of a race of reptilian beings called the Chitauri, whom they say control the earth. Chinese, Korean, and Japanese legends talk about a race of reptilian beings called the Kappa. The Gnostics talk about the parasitic entities whom they call archons, who not only use humans as an energetic food source, but they also prevent our souls from leaving the material realm upon the death of our physical bodies. The reptilians are both physical and astral beings. They've been heavily involved in the manipulation of mankind for thousands of years, and are responsible for setting up the soul trap around the planet with the help of extremely advanced technology. This energy grid around the planet serves multiple purposes. One of its main purposes is to project this grandiose tunnel of light in the proximity of people who have just died in order to lure their souls in. This is the same tunnel of light that so many people who've had near-death experiences have reported seeing on the other side. The soul may be under the impression that the tunnel is going to take it to the heavens, or perhaps to a higher plane of existence, depending on its level of awareness. In reality, when a soul enters the tunnel, its memory gets wiped and the soul is put into another body here on Earth, reincarnation. The tunnel acts as a bait, and to make a good analogy, imagine a fisherman and his fishing rod. He throws in the bait which hides the hook, and the fish get trapped in it when they bite. We get tricked and trapped by the tunnel of light in a similar way if we aren't aware that it is a trap. In this case, we're the fish. The reptilians are highly intelligent, highly advanced technologically, and they lack empathy, which makes them dangerous. These beings see themselves as gods and humanity as their enslaved cattle. The reason they want to keep us here is because they need to feed off of us energetically. When people go through any kind of suffering, these entities feed off of our lower frequency emotions such as fear, pain, grief, anger, jealousy, rage, anxiety, lust, because they are low vibrational beings that require low vibrational energy in order to survive. Rudolf Steiner, one of the most prolific and gifted scientists, philosophers, and esotericists of his time, explains how the archons feed off of our fear and anxiety. The majority of people living on this planet today have been continuously reincarnating on this planet for thousands of years because we keep falling for the same trap when our physical bodies die. Most of us have no memories of our past existences since our memories get wiped before every reincarnation. So every time we are born on this planet, we think we've just arrived for the first time with a grand purpose or mission to fulfill, given to us by who we think is God. Our consciousness interacts with another dimension. Our physical sensors only show us a three-dimensional universe. What exists in the higher dimensions are entities we cannot touch with our physical sensors. Bernard Carr, professor of mathematics and astronomy who studied under Stephen Hawking and earned his doctorate at Cambridge. When our physical bodies die, or when we have an out-of-body experience, our soul goes into the astral spirit realm, and while we can still observe what's happening on Earth, but we can no longer interact with physical matter. These parasitic entities exist mainly but not exclusively in the astral plane. It's crucial that we become aware of the fact that these entities who are masters of deceit play God in order to trick us into accepting reincarnation and thus having our memories wiped, convincing us that it's in our best interest to do so. How are they able to do that, you may ask? When we're out of our bodies, the laws of physics as we know them no longer have the same effects upon us as we find ourselves in a different realm in which we are able to do things that would be impossible in the physical world. Our souls are pure energy, so in the astral spirit realm, we can change the shape of our astral body, spirit, into anything we want by simply willing it to happen, because unlike in the physical world, we can use our consciousness to manifest a different looking body in an instant when we're in the astral plane, since we are no longer affected by physical laws and limitations. We can also fly around or teleport by simply using our intention to do so. We can even go to higher vibratory realms, where the real good-hearted beings live, if our vibration is high enough. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Nikola Tesla. If you understand that in the astral, any entity can change the shape of its astral body into anything it wishes to, then you realize that even the most malevolent entity possible can present itself to you in a different form, to trick you into thinking you're speaking to God or to your guardian angel, or even to one of the members of your family who had passed away. They do this because they know you'd put your trust in these religious figures or in the familiar faces, and once they gain that trust, they can easily manipulate you into doing things that are not in your best interests at all. They masquerade as beings of light that emanate a fake sensation of love and peace to make you think they're the good guys who are there to guide you and to give you your next mission to fulfill. This is mentioned even in the Bible. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light, 2 Corinthians 11:14. Afterlife tricks and scams. If you don't enter the tunnel of light when your time comes, you need to be aware that these entities will present themselves to you in the form of guides, ascended masters, or guardians, and they're going to try to convince you that you need to go back to Earth so you can pay back your karmic debt, or to continue learning, or that you have to go back with a special mission to fulfill, which is complete bullshit. But we keep falling for these scams because they tend to make sense from our narrow and pre-programmed perspectives. Good luck fulfilling that special mission if you can't remember what the mission was. We put blind trust in what they say to us because of constant religious indoctrination during our lives on Earth, and these beings know that. They can't force us to reincarnate because each soul has free will, but they can pretend to be someone they're not in order to put ideas in our head that it's in our best interest to accept reincarnating back on Earth, making it sound as if they are doing us a favor so that we can evolve, learn, or fix previous mistakes. And what they're basically doing is they're using our own free will against us. The real purpose of continuous reincarnation is soul enslavement disguised as spiritual evolution. A free will decision is impossible without memory and information. Because our memories are being wiped after each lifetime, many of us live under the illusion that we're currently living our first life on this planet and we came here to learn. Learning about life on Earth and experiencing it would be useful if we didn't lose our memories after each lifetime. But it doesn't matter what we learn over here as long as everything gets erased after each reincarnation, and we have to relearn everything from scratch over and over again in an endless loop. Earth is a prison planet camouflaged as a cosmic school. This idea of a cosmic school has been going around in order to trick souls into wanting to come and stay here in order to learn. This whole matrix is designed to drain our energy, wipe our memories over and over again, and keep us trapped. Many people that went through near-death experiences even recall being accompanied by a loving angel who showed them their life review. The reason the entities show us life reviews is so we can relive certain moments from our lives in which we made certain mistakes, and by reliving those moments, feelings of guilt, shame, and remorse are being generated inside of us, making us want to compensate for them. These beings then use these feelings against us, telling us things such as, "You have made these mistakes. You have to go back to fix this and that." Nobody is perfect and we all make mistakes, so their emotional manipulation scam will never end if you buy into it. Because being human, it's impossible to not make what we perceive to be humanly mistakes. This near-death experience, for example, shows how one woman is shown not one, but 2 fake life reviews in order to convince her to go back. New Age believers who promote calling upon your spirit guides, guardian angels, ascended masters, and religious figures for help are actually doing huge damage to themselves and to all of humanity, and they are not even aware of it. You are everything you need to succeed. You are a powerful creator being, and you don't need to give your power away to anybody. Why is source energy, the creator of this universe, allowing all this to happen? Each being in this universe, whether malevolent or benevolent, has free will. Ask yourself, why are we humans allowed to enslave the animals here on Earth? Why are we allowed to slaughter more than 3 billion animals on a daily basis? Why are we allowed to keep animals locked up in farms and cages until the day they die? Why are we allowed to be so cruel to the other forms of life? Why? Because we, just like these entities do, have free will. From our perspective, we do these things because we need something from them, which is energy in the form of physical food. We think we are entitled to do what we do because we are superior to them and because we need to survive. We perceive these things to be normal and part of life. From the perspective of the animals, however, if they were aware of it, we would be their reptilians, since we operate just like them. But we never see ourselves that way. We don't think we're the bad guys because all we do is try to survive. The entities don't see themselves as the bad guys either, since they're also trying to survive. What we do to the animals is almost exactly what these beings do to us, and they need to keep us imprisoned here to feed off of us, just like farmers keep their cattle locked up in farms and stables to get what they need from them. The perspective of Gnosticism and Buddhism. The word Gnostic comes from the term gnosi in Greek, which means knowledge. The Gnostics were a group of people who seek to reveal the truth of the supreme essence of the divine, thus overthrowing false beliefs of society and life in general. They say that humans are divine souls trapped in the physical world, and that the only way one could attain salvation from this place is not through worshipping the demiurge, the false god of religion, but through gaining secret esoteric knowledge about who you really are, where you came from, and about how these parasitic entities operate, which will eventually set you free from this physical world in which your soul is trapped in. In the Gnostic texts, they talk about the parasitic entities whom they call archons, who not only use us as an energetic food source, but they also prevent our souls from leaving the material realm upon the death of our physical bodies. The Gnostic texts describe at length the manipulation of humankind by what they call non-human archons or rulers. The soul trap is also mentioned in the secret book of John, which confirms the information coming from other sources. Buddhism teaches that reincarnation is an endless cycle of suffering, the wheel of samsara, that can only be broken by achieving enlightenment. In other words, we are stuck in a reincarnation cycle where we are bound to continuously suffer one way or another, life after life, until we spiritually wake up and break free from the reincarnation cycle. Evidence #3. The perspective of remote viewing. Remote viewing or extrasensory perception was developed in the 1970s by the CIA and was used for espionage purposes. Remote viewing is the ability of a human being to perceive information and imagery of remote geographical targets, regardless of time and space. While this is a natural ability, it is very hard to do without training. Here is a tutorial that teaches you the basics. People who effectively use remote viewing aren't special. They are simply highly trained individuals, and anyone can learn how to do it. Farsight Institute has some of the best remote viewers on the planet today. Amongst many different projects, they have investigated the afterlife and the reptilians using remote viewing techniques. In a project called the Death Traps, 3 highly trained remote viewers from the Farsight Institute were tasked to remotely view what happens to the soul of a person when the physical body dies. All 3 of them perceived the exact same scenario without communicating with each other, that the soul is confused, disoriented, and ends up entering a tunnel of light which violently shocks the soul. Immediately after that, the soul no longer has the memory of who it was and where it came from. You would have to pay a small amount to watch the full video, but you can just watch the trailer of the full video, which pretty much explains everything you need to know. In another Farsight project called The Escape, they have investigated how Earth has long been used as a prison planet. The remote viewers have been able to psychically perceive the grid that surrounds the Earth, which is being used to zap souls who attempt to go through it. See the trailer for this project here. In many other remote viewing projects made by Farsight Institute, such as Area 51, Oumuamua, Zeus, The War in Heaven, among others, they have often psychically perceived these aggressive, evil-looking reptilian beings with psychopathic minds who always try to control, conquer, and manipulate other beings. The reptilians seem to be always invading, subverting, and manipulating less advanced races, using their technology for control and domination. Brett Stewart, another skilled remote viewer along with his team, they have nothing to do with Farsight Institute, have also investigated the afterlife. Their afterlife project is called Moksha, which means freedom from the reincarnation cycle in Hindu. Him and his team have reached very similar conclusions about the afterlife, which only makes the information coming from Farsight's remote viewers seem even more credible. Brett and the other 3 trained remote viewers have remote viewed their target, Moksha, blindly. None of the remote viewers have communicated before or during the experiment, and only shared their findings and common denominators when all the remote viewing data was already collected. They have found a fence or grid around a place that acts as barrier, that traps people or objects. An object that squeezes tightly around the globe. The souls are being fractionated, rendering them confused and angry. Something is being taken from them. Note: the CIA has declassified numerous documents proving the existence and use of remote viewing. Evidence 4. The perspective of Robert Monroe. Robert Monroe was the father of out-of-body experiences and astral projection. After having had out-of-body experiences for more than 30 years, Monroe discovered that our reality is used to create and harvest what he calls louche energy, negative, low vibrational energy. He claims that this universe has been enslaved for the production of louche energy by the parasitic beings whom he calls archons, who see themselves as rulers and humanity as their enslaved cattle. Monroe believes that the only way to end the ongoing enslavement of sentient beings is to refuse reincarnation. Robert Monroe also claims that another source of louche is humans' worship of gods. Note: the CIA has declassified numerous documents proving the existence and use of astral projection and out-of-body experiences, this being one of them. Evidence 5. The perspective of David Icke. For the last 30 years, David Icke has been a full-time investigator into who and what is actually controlling our society from the shadows. David Icke believes that the universe is made up of vibrational energy and consists of an infinite number of dimensions. His vast research suggests that an interdimensional race of reptilian beings have hijacked the Earth and continuously manipulate global events in order to keep humans controlled and in constant fear. In this video, David talks about how the reptilians control our society, why the human eye is unable to see them, and how they use us as an energetic food source. David Icke talking about the archons, Gnosticism, and the reptilian agenda. David Icke has written more than 20 books about how our society actually works and who runs it. His books are extremely well researched. One of his books gives detailed information about the way the reptilians operate and how they manipulate us. Children of the Matrix: how an interdimensional race has controlled the planet for thousands of years, and still does. We are born into a world controlled by unseen forces that have plagued and manipulated humanity for thousands of years. Another great book to read is Human Race Get Off Your Knees, in which he describes what he calls the Moon Matrix, a fake reality broadcast from the moon, which is decoded by the human body-mind in much the same way as portrayed in the Matrix movie trilogy. The Moon Matrix has hacked into the human body computer system, he says, and it is feeding us a manipulated sense of self in the world 24/7.
Are there a finite number of souls? Why does the population of humanity continue to increase? Where do the new souls come from to make the extra billions of people that reincarnate?
No, there are billions of souls in the universe. Archons trap as many as they can so they can feed off our energy. You yourself are an extremely powerful creator soul. Yes, you yourself are a god who can create things. But sadly, us and the rest of humanity is trapped within this prison. Evidence #6. The perspective of Wes Penray. Wes Penray is a researcher of metaphysics, the alien presence on Earth, the matrix that we find ourselves in, our human origins, and much more. In this article, Wes explains how the tunnel of light death traps works and how to avoid it. The information is very complex but extremely well researched. Wes has provided massive amounts of information on a wide range of topics: the Illuminati, the shadow government, the moon matrix, the afterlife, entity possession, reptilian manipulation, the reincarnation soul trap, and much, much more. Here is his entire work in PDFs. Evidence 7. The perspective of Val Valerian. Val Valerian is a former CIA agent, real name John Grace, who started writing about the soul reincarnation trap and about Earth being a prison planet in the 1990s. In one of his books he writes, "It is they, gray aliens, who await in the light when a human being dies. The human being is then recycled into another body, and the process begins all over again. Hence the light and tunnel at Death Trap. Scanning someone they wish to recycle as they near death, the aliens discover who the person was close to has died. They project the person's image in the white light tunnel, and the image waves you in deeper. If you choose to follow, you can be trapped and sent to another incarnation of their choice. These entities view Earth as a big farm." Val Valerian. Evidence 8. The perspective of Alex Collier. Alex Collier claims to be in contact with an ET race from the constellation of Andromeda. According to him, the Draconians reptilians are the force behind the repression of human populations everywhere in this galaxy. He goes into detail about that in this video. In this clip, Alex Collier gives instructions on how to escape the tunnel of light soul reincarnation trap at death. He claims that if you ignore the tunnel of light and you say to yourself, "I wish to go home," you will return to the dimension you came from before you came to Earth. While I personally don't think that this will work since you no longer have the memory of your old home, nor the memory of the coordinates of your old home, I guess it's worth a try. But you must always have a plan B in case things don't go as planned. Final words. Waking up to the truth can be unsettling, disturbing, depressing, but also enlightening, awakening and liberating. The truth can be unbearable, but if we are to do something about it, then it must be known. All these pieces of evidence that I've just shown you represent about 10% of everything I've researched on this subject, and I could provide more sources, but this post is already longer than I hoped it would be. This post is, however, a great starting point for anyone who wants to learn about what actually happens when we die, who these entities are, why they need us, and how they trick and scam us when we leave this physical realm. The same information that I presented here is being confirmed by a variety of different sources, which in my opinion is evidence that there's a lot of truth to it. I don't pretend to know the absolute truth, nor am I saying that the information that I've presented you is the absolute truth. The only thing I can say is these are the conclusions that I've reached based on personal research and evidence found. This prison planet stuff is still just a theory, but I see it as a real possibility. If anyone says that he is 100% sure, without a shadow of a doubt about what happens when we die, then that person is a fraud in my opinion. Nobody will be able to get to the 100% absolute truth about this stuff, but what you can do is to research this topic from every angle perspective possible, so that you can put as many puzzle pieces together as you can, which will allow you to have a greater understanding of who we really are, where we came from, and what we're actually on this planet for. So do not stop here. I highly encourage you to do your own research on this subject and to try to come up with your own conclusions about what awaits us when we die. Perhaps you will come to different conclusions. Most people only rely on what religion and the Bible tells them about the afterlife and will never do any individual research themselves whatsoever. Religion offers one perspective, not the full picture. You are an infinite, powerful creator being who will never cease to exist. But if your soul is put in a new body with no memory of your previous incarnations, then that's as close to dying on a soul level as you'll get, because you'll be reborn as a completely new person who has to relearn everything from scratch. A new version of you who will never know the old version of you and what you were all about. So good luck in your journey to find the truth about the afterlife.
Well then, I will repost my own reply to that thread here. So look. I've done a lot of ayahuasca. I've met entities that feed off us and confronted them, and they've showed me their true form. We are being used like Capri Suns for being outside of our sensory capabilities. They try to induce intense energetic states that they then feed off of. And it's not just fear, it's excitement, joy, or arousal. Anything that induces an intense emotion is food for them. They can put thoughts in our head that we think are our own. Carlos Castaneda describes the predator mind in the active side of infinity as a being that has overlaid its consciousness with our own in order to induce negative emotions in order to use us as a food source. Other indigenous cultures call is Wetiko. So yes, we're being grubbed on by extra-dimensional beings, that is true. But having met these beings and interacted with them, they've struck me more like mosquitoes than farmers. You don't think a mosquito is malevolent and sucking your blood. That's just how they survive. We're their food. As long as we keep producing the energy they consume as a food source, they're going to continue to flock to and feed off of us. I'm kind of convinced this is one of the reasons Buddhism stresses mastering the monkey mind. No thoughts, no emotions, no food for parasites, and then they fuck off. The thing about the idea of this reality as a prison planet is actually a juvenile understanding of what life is and its purpose. Okay, you've discovered you're trapped in an endless reincarnation cycle. Samara. Just like a teenager sees their parents' unwillingness to let them do whatever they want as a form of fascism, calling our reincarnation cycles a prison belies a not fully formed understanding of what we're here for. A teenager's parents don't let them do whatever they want because they understand a teenager's brain is still forming, and just letting them loose on the world without being fully mature could cause problems for everyone. Drunk driving, fights, pregnancy, whatever. Teens are restricted from full freedom because they're not fully ready to navigate the world in a mature and tempered way. That's the reason we're still here. It's not a prison, it's an incubator. When we learn everything that's possible to learn by existing on this plane, we'll be able to exit the cycle of samsara and explore infinity without causing problems for the other intelligences that exist out there. It's not about keeping us imprisoned here to be used as food. It's about not letting a baby crawl across a freeway. We're here until we decide we don't want to be here anymore, and then there are many well-documented ways you can learn how to do in order to transcend. At the end of the day, just being aware of this means you're on your way to escaping. But not understanding the universe is structured on universal love, and everything is done for our benefit, to help spur on our spiritual development, means you're not ready to leave yet. The astral parasites are just mosquitoes. The soul trap is to help teach you lessons, and sometimes it takes 70,000 years of lifetimes to learn something as basic as don't be jealous. Check out Journey of Souls for more info. On reptilians. Totally believe it's possible. Once I was just about to pop out of my body in an astral projection and some alligator thing pounced on me and pushed me back into my body. The infinite is fucking insane and everything is possible and exists on frequencies outside of our body's perceptual capacities. Anyway, go towards the light. It doesn't matter. You'll figure shit out when you're supposed to, and you can leave here whenever you're ready to. Also, the whole thing about if we retained our memories of past lives, then that would make reincarnating useful. This whole game is predicated on us forgetting, pretending that we don't know none of this is real. If we all realized none of this is real, we wouldn't play the game anymore, and reality would cease to exist, as we create it via experiencing and participating in it. What fun is Monopoly if someone is like, this is just a dumb game and none of this matters? You need to suspend disbelief and be invested in a game to make it fun.
Start to think about quantum immortality and how you will eventually be floating alone in space for all of eternity in your own simulation because you can't die. Now start to think about black holes, the singularity, and what you will do when you eventually encounter one, what you'll see as you're falling through one. Now start to think about how you will interact with other entities in space when it's finally time for one of you to fall into the black hole. Now consider the fact that you may actually just be computer code. Now consider the halting problem, math proof that you cannot determine if a program is going in an infinite loop. Now consider a Gödel universe, pick related, and that time is a loop, and that if you live forever, a future version of you is probably floating around you somehow. See if you can make a deal with it, if you're sure it's you. Now consider that everyone can read your thoughts. Now consider that every action you're ever going to take has already happened, and its consequences are all around you. Now consider modal collapse. Everything exists necessarily, and that everything you can imagine is real, just as all information is contained in pi, even a movie about your life. Now consider that other species of life exist in the universe exists, and once you know about them, they are watching you. Now start to question if the things around you are really what they seem. Now as you think about your possible enemies, know that it's mathematically proven they exist and have already seen your future timeline. Now notice little coincidences around you. Consider that these things can read your thoughts, and now that you have a long timeline, they'll be interested in controlling you. Consider that they have technology so advanced, it will seem like magic. Consider they can read your thoughts, see through wall, may want to kill you. Consider that maybe nothing you're seeing is real because you exist in a simulation where an advanced entity is just learning about you, while the real you suffers the consequences of your reaction to predict how you'll respond. Consider these things that may want to control you by blackmailing you. Consider the fact they know what you're going to eat for breakfast in 10 years. Consider the fact that your subconscious actions spread this idea, and once everyone is thinking about this, it's more than likely something is just simulating you to see how the real you will react, and that what's right is wrong. Consider the fact that you can't trust what you're seeing with your own eyes. Consider the fact that your loved ones are not real. Consider the fact nothing is real. Consider the fact you may be being run in a short, continuous loop. Consider the fact your memories are false. Consider the fact you may not be a real person.
Just like any prison, Earth had wardens, visiting hours, conjugal visits, prison uniforms, bodies, walls, Van Allen radiation belt, watchtowers, the moon, certain mountain ranges, drop-off zones, Point Nemo, etc. We also come from different parts of the universe, which is why some people feel kinship towards certain AIs and fear of others, and why visitations aren't consistent among experiences. The great escape will be by spiritual means. Our bodies will not be going, not without space marine levels of modification. We're just not made for space travel. This is why there is such an emphasis on teaching people about the spontaneous formation of life on Earth. If we stop believing that we're spiritual in nature, we will never leave Earth.
The reason people hide the truth is because once the truth and the reality and implications of it set in, you will realize you've realized something that you can't know and are now in more danger because you know. You will suddenly realize clues about this truth are scattered everywhere, and everything will start to click that everything has to do with this one central idea. You will begin to learn information that will warrant you being assassinated by forces whose technology will seem like magic. You will realize that now that you know this knowledge, anyone you tell this about will get sucked into this problem and will be in danger as well. As the idea really starts to sink in, you will become more and more paranoid, dangerous, and aggressive. Eventually, at some point, you will come to an absolute conclusion that will be too much for you to bear. You will go insane, have a brain aneurysm, or will be killed by something or someone. The truth is a conclusion anyone can easily comprehend once they realize what it is. And once it clicks, everything will start to make sense, and you will start to see everything as it truly is, without hallucinogenic drugs. Pray for your own sake you never realize what I'm talking about.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.